What's going on, guys? Metal Music Junkie here, aka John Browning. And today, we'll be doing part 4 of the best rock and metal albums by year from the decades. And we are in the 2000s, the decade from when I was born. So, yeah, this is honestly really hard to come up with a list. Like, it's kind of like the 90s. There's just so many good albums, and there were some albums I wanted to include, but I only have to pick one, and we'll get to it when we get there. So, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, now we're in the new millennium, 2000. A lot of good albums came out that year. In Flames, Clayman, Children of Bodom, Follow the Reaper, Papa Roach, Infest, Disturbed, The Sickness, Dying Fetus, Destroy the Opposition. I mean, a lot of great... Oh, Perfect Circle, Nerd to Gnomes. So many good ones. Limp Bizkit, Chocolate Starfish, and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. That was another good one. Pantera, Reinventing the Steel. I mean, wow. What a stacked year that was. But this one was actually pretty easy. So, my favorite album of 2000 is, it's also one of my favorite albums of all time, by one of my all-time favorite bands, White Pony by Deftones. Man, I remember I was on a vacation in Clearwater, Florida. We stopped at a CD store, and I remember buying Tools Anima, Pantera's Far Beyond Driven, Typo Negative's Bloody Kisses, and White Pony by Deftones on CD. In fact, it's near my shelf. I'll actually show you that copy. This is actually the one without Back to School. So, and it's kind of the same with my vinyl copy as well, which is fine. I mean, it is a good song, but we'll get to the tracks. And I remember me and my dad got into a fight on what album he wanted to hear Pantera, and I wanted to hear Deftones, and I ended up getting him lost and shit. Like, yeah, but I'd say it was all worth it because I got Deftones, so I don't give a fuck. So, yeah, but don't get into arguments with your parents over your music. That ain't cool. All right, don't do that. I'm just saying. That happened. Well, anyway, so great album. I mean, every song's great. Digital Bath, Elite, Fetter Sarah, I don't know how you pronounce that. RX Queen, Street Carp, Teenager, Knife Party, Korea, Passenger, Change in the House of Flies, Pink Maggot. It's a fucking amazing album. So, my favorite album of 2000, White Pony by Deftones. Alright, so now we're in 2001. This one was probably the hardest one of them all because I had to pick between 3 albums. Now, if you would have asked me, like 3 or 4 years ago, what was my favorite album of 2001, I would have either said Slipknot's Iowa or System of a Down's Toxicity. I still love those albums, don't get me wrong. In fact, Iowa's my favorite Slipknot album. Those are my favorite albums from both of those bands. But re-listening to them, I still love them and all, but I kind of have to go with this. I've always loved this band, but in like the last year or so, I've become like fanatical about this band. So, and it's actually become my favorite album of all time, and it's not even by my favorite band. So, my favorite album of 2001 is Lateralus by Tool. I mean, every time I listen to this album, moves my soul like no other album. Alright, I'll shut up. But, kind of like re-listen, as I get older and my music taste kind of change, I kind of prefer this more. Now, like 14, 15-year-old me would be like, oh, hell no. Slipknot all the way. But this, I mean, it's a fucking great album. They got The Grudge, The Patient, Schism, Parabola, the title track, Ticks and Leeches. This whole album is perfect. It's a masterpiece. And actually, this is a really cool vinyl pressing of it. It's got the gatefold, and actually, they all come on picture disc, which I'll show you real quick. Here's one of the discs. I'm not going to show you all of them because, you know, if I showed you every record, we'd be here forever. So, my favorite album of 2001, Lateralus by Tool. All right, now we're in 2002. Another great year for music. I mean, you have Killswitch Engage, Alive or Just Breathing, System of a Down, Steal This Album, Korn, Untouchables, Shadows Fall, The Art of Balance. That's a really underrated album right there. In Flames, Reroute to Remain. Really good, some good stuff. But I decided to go with this. I was kind of having a hard time. Oh, Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf, Audio Slave, Self-Titled. I mean, so many good albums. I can go on. But I decided to go with this. This is kind of one of the albums I've always liked this album and I like this band, but kind of like with Tool in the last year, I got like really into them, like big time. So, my favorite album of 2002 is Nothing by Meshuggah. This is actually my favorite Meshuggah album. I mean, I love Destroy, Erase, Improve, and I love Obzin and all, but this was kind of the album that got me into Meshuggah early on, and mainly with the song Rational Gaze. It's a banger of a song. You had Straws Pulled at Random. Stigma, and I think that's how you say it, and so many good songs on there. So, my favorite album of 2002, Nothing by Meshuggah. Sorry about that. Didn't do my homework. Just so you know, guys, I kind of come up with these ideas on the fly, so I need to get better with preparing. But anyways, now we're in 2003. Another great year for music. You had Avenged Sevenfold, Waken the Fallen, Lamb of God, Ashes as the Palaces Burn, Hymn, Love Metal. A lot of really good ones. Oh, Korn, Take a Look in the Mirror. But it was also a year of duds, like Metallica, Saint Anger, and Limp Bizkit's Results May Vary. Less said about those albums, the better. So, but to me, this is obvious. This is the album I gotta pick for 2003. So, my favorite album of 2003 is Linkin Park, Meteora. In my opinion, this is Hybrid Theory, but better. I mean, I love Hybrid Theory. It's one of the best debuts of all time, but I think this is better. I mean, Don't Stay, Somewhere I Belong, Lying From You, Hit the Floor, Easier to Run, Faint, Figure .09, Breaking the Habit, From the Inside, Nobody's Listening, Numb. I mean, it's a fucking great album. So, my favorite album of 2003, Meteora by Linkin Park. Alright, now we're in 2004. In my opinion, one of the best years of rock and metal. So many good albums came out that year. Killswitch Engage, End of Heartache, Slipknot Volume 3, Subliminal Verses, On Earth, The Oncoming Storm. That's like a really underrated album. My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, Green Day, American Idiot. I can go on. But, to me, this was easy for me for albums of 2004. So, my favorite album of 2004 is, and actually I'm about to see them for the second time in about 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. So, it is Ashes of the Awake by Lamb of God. In my opinion, another 10 out of 10 album. I mean, every song is fucking amazing. Lay to Rest, Hourglass, Now You've Got Something to Die For, The Faded Line, Ormeta, Blood on the Scrap, One Gun, Break You, What I've Become, Title Track, which is an instrumental, Remorses for the Dead, and I like the bonus track, Another Nail for Your Coffin. But I like the newer version that he did with Kubicon and Malevolence better. So, my favorite album of 2004, Ashes of the Awake by Lamb of God. Alright, now we're in 2005, the year I was born. So, another really good year for music. I mean, you have Mesmerize and Hypnotize from System of a Down, which I actually almost picked one of those albums. Trivium, Ascendancy, Every Time I Die, The New Black, Fall Out Boy from Under the Cork Tree, Static X, Start a War. Lots of really good shit came out that year. Oh, Arch Enemy, Doomsday Machine. I mean, I can go on. But, I mean, I almost picked System of a Down's Mesmerize. That was probably the album I would have picked if I did this list like 4 years ago. In fact, I'm wearing a shirt from that album. And as much as I love that album, I don't really return to it as much anymore because I'm kind of burned out on it. And kind of like with Meshuggah and Tool, I've always liked this band and liked this album, but like in the last year or so, it has really risen up to the top for me. So, my favorite album of 2005 is City of Evil by Avenged Sevenfold. I mean, this is the album that broke Avenged Sevenfold, and so many great songs. Beast in the Harlot, Burn It Down, Blighted in Chains, Backcountry, Trashed and Scattered, Seize the Day, Sidewinder, Wicked End, Strength of the World, Betray, MIA. This is a fucking great album, and this is probably my favorite Avenged Sevenfold album. So, my favorite album of 2005, City of Evil by Avenged Sevenfold. Alright, now we're in 2006. A solid year for music. You had Killswitch Engage, As Daylight Dies. Why did I almost say that? As I Lay Dying? My Chemical Romance, Black Parade, All That Remains, Fall of Ideals, Breaking Benjamin, Phobia, Unearth 3. I mean, a lot of really good shit came out that year. But this one was pretty easy for me. Another one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite albums by one of my favorite bands, and actually I actually think it's better than their debut album that came out. Well, I'll tell you. So my favorite album of 2006 is 10,000 Days by Tool. I know, that was a terrible thing. Yeah, hot take. I like this better than Undertow. I don't like it as much as Lateralus or Anima, but this is a fucking great album. I mean, and if you're a Tool fan and collect CDs and vinyl like I do, this is like really cool packaging. They come up with like the 3D glasses or goggles, and you can like, or actually, that's kind of like, I don't know. It's like you would like flip through the booklet and just see all like the 3D and stuff. Like, pretty cool packaging. But all that aside, this is a fucking great album. I mean, you have one of my all-time favorite Tool songs by Curious and also Zombie, Waiting for Mary Part 1 and 2, The Pot, Lost Keys, Rosetta Stone, Right in 2. I mean, this is a fucking great album. Perfect album, in my opinion. So, my favorite album of 2006, 10,000 Days by Tool. Alright, now we're in 2007. Another great year for music. I mean, you have As I Lay Dying, An Ocean Between Us, a self-titled Avenged Sevenfold album, Suicide Silence, The Cleansing. Those are just to name a few, but this one was pretty easy for me. This is probably my favorite album by this band, and kind of not really a comeback, because the previous album was kind of them back to original form, but this is when they really like stepped up their game even more. So, my favorite album of 2007 is The Blackening by Machine Head. I mean, this is in my opinion, this is the band's best album. This is when they really stepped up their game. And the previous album, Through the Ashes of Empire, was great after they went through a real shit nu metal phase. After their first couple albums, Burn My Eyes and The More Things Change, were really good. But this is them at their finest form. I mean, you have Clinching the Fence of Dissent, Beautiful Morning, Aesthetics of Hate, which was actually written about Dimebag. Now I Lay Thee Down, Halo, Farewell to Arms. It's a fucking great album. So, my favorite album of 2007, The Blackening by Machine Head. Alright, now we're in 2008. Not one of the best years in music, but it was still pretty good. You had Slipknot, All Hope Is Gone, Whitechapel, This Is Exile. I mean, a lot of great albums came out that year. And I actually almost went with the Whitechapel album because I fucking love that album. But I decided I kind of like this album more. So, and I don't have it, unfortunately. So, my favorite album of 2008 is Shogun by Trivium. In my opinion, this is Trivium's best album. This is them at their most progressive and their kind of more thrash metal. Still kind of continuing for that thrash metal, Metallica-ish sound from The Crusade. But executed better. Because I'm not the biggest fan of that album. So many good songs on there, like Frozen Paradiction, Down from the Sky, Karasu Gomen. I mean, those are just some of my favorites on there. So, my favorite album of 2008, Shogun by Trivium. Alright, final year, 2009. Pretty solid. I mean, you have Megadeth, In Game, Suicide Silence, No Time to Bleed. Slayer, World Painted Blood. Some really good stuff came out that year. But I decided to go with this as my favorite. So, my favorite album of 2009 is Crack the Skye by Mastodon. One of my favorite progressive metal albums of all time. I mean, every song on here is great. You had Oblivion, which is probably one of my favorite Mastodon songs. Dimensions, Coincidence, Ghost of Kerala, the title track, The Last Baron. Really great album. So, my favorite album of 2009, Crack the Skye by Mastodon. Alright, that is it for this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't gatekeep, and rock on.